Pedagogy of Social Sciences, Chapter 2, Classroom Processes, Activities and Discourse. Classroom meaning, objectives, and process. A classroom is a learning space in any educational institution where learning takes place uninterrupted by outside distractions. A classroom has certain objects. They are as follows: to develop skill of social coexistence among learners, to develop sense of belongingness among learners, to prepare accountable citizens for future, to develop life skills among learners. A classroom processes includes the thinking, feelings, commitments, and actions of teachers and students. Classroom processes can be divided into three basic subcategories. Teacher behavior. This consists of all the actions a teacher would make in the classroom, which can be categorized into the following. First, planning. All activities a teacher might carry out to get ready to interact with students in the classroom. Instruction, guiding student learning. Management, controlling student behavior. Research has shown that only a small number of individual teacher behavior variables actually predict student achievement. These are given below in order from highest to lowest. Use of positive reinforcement, cues and corrective feedback, cooperation learning activities, higher order questioning, use of advanced organizations. Student behavior. These are all of the actions a student would make in the classroom. They include one very important variable called academic learning time. Academic learning time is the amount of time students are successfully covering contents that will be tested subsequently. It is composed of the three separate variables: content overlap, the percentage of content covered on the test out of what was actually covered by students in the classroom, against time, the amount of time students are actively involved in the learning process. Success. The extent to which students accurately complete the assignments they have been given. A high level of academic learning time means that students are covering important content that is subsequently tested or evaluated. Students are on task most of the class period. Students are successful on most of the assignments they complete. Other processes. Some examples of other classroom factors affecting learners' achievement are as follows: classroom atmosphere and morale, opportunity given to students to engage in leadership roles, and so on. One of the most important concepts that has developed in educational psychology during the past few years is that classroom process variables are the most direct link to students' achievements. Specifically, we can say that the teacher's classroom behavior has a direct influence on student classroom behavior. Most importantly, academic learning time. Thus, academic learning time is the most direct link to measures of students' achievement. Approaches of teaching. A thousand teachers, a thousand methods is a Chinese proverb which means teaching approaches vary with individuals. Teaching approach is a set of principles, beliefs, or ideas about the nature of learning which is translated into the classroom. When a teacher has a long term plan of action designed to achieve a particular goal, it becomes his teaching strategy. In general, there are following teacher approaches. When the teacher is perceived to be the only reliable source of information is called teacher-centered approach. On the other hand, when it is premised on the belief that the learner is also an important source of information, it is called the learner-centered approach. When subject matter gains primacy over of this learner, it is called subject matter centered approach. When only the teacher's voice is heard and he becomes the sole dispenser of information, it is called the teacher dominated approach. When students are given the opportunity to interact with teacher and other students, it is called the interactive approach. When students are given to opportunity to construct knowledge and meaning out of for what they are taught by connecting them to period experience, it is called constructivism approach. When the teacher deposits knowledge into the empty minds of students, it is called a banking approach. John Dewey criticized this approach. When the teacher integrates or synthesizes his knowledge from different disciplines in his teaching or learners are too given such opportunity, it is called integrated approach. This is the most suitable teaching approach. When the teacher limits himself to discussing lessons within the boundary of his subject, it is called a disciplined approach. When group work, teamwork, partnership, and group discussions are welcomed in teaching, it is called the collaborative approach. When a teacher wants the individual students to work by themselves in a classroom, it is called an individualistic approach. When a teacher directly tells or shows or demonstrates what is to be taught, it is called the direct teaching approach. When the teacher facilitates the learning process by allowing the learner to be engaged in the learning process within his guidance, it is called the indirect approach. Teaching methods techniques. Teaching method is an orderly logical arrangement of teaching steps. Lecture method. It is the teacher centered approach in which learners act as a passive learner. Demonstration method. In this method, the teacher or as assigned student or group shows how a process is done while the other students become observers. Inquiry method. It is a learner centered approach where learners are given opportunity to explore, inquire, and discover new learning. Problem solving method. This is the most scientific method in searching for information. कितनी अप्रोच होगी? लेक्चर मेथड हो गया, डेमोस्ट्रेशन मेथड हो गया, इंक्वायरी मेथड हो गया एंड प्रॉब्लम सॉल्विंग मेथड. It is well defined procedure used to accomplish a specific activity or task. Uses of teaching aids come under teaching techniques. It varies from subject to subject. Such as use of globe in teaching of geography is a good technique, while use of audio visual in a language class is a good technique. Activities. Meaning, objective and type. During teaching learning process, to engage learners in a task which has capability to link them with real world is called learning activity. To cater principal knowledge to the learners, objects of the activities. To cater practical knowledge to the learners, to develop cooperation learning, to utilize energy of the learner in a right direction, to link them experiences with them learning. Activities inside the classroom. Learning activities which the teacher can employ inside the classroom should not include just a dictation of facts by the teacher, as this will mean going back to rote learning. The teacher must believe that the learners can really be helped in understanding the concepts by participating in the activities which involves them. The following activities are normally effective in this regard. Verbal question, answer on the topic being studied. They should be taken up at the end of the topic or end of one section of it. It is a highly effective because it demands active participation of the learner. Case study. The learning is enabled by comparing and contrasting through concrete examples. An example can be the variability of the local weather or climate. The children can collect the weather reports of the last few days from the newspapers and stick them in the newspaper. Cooperative learning. Working in terms to solve a problem given by a teacher. It contains the following elements. Positive interdiscipline between team members. We sink or swim together. Individual and swim as group accountability. Face-to-face interaction. Expect learning of interpersonal and teamwork skills. Group processing, evaluation of team functioning and agreeing to change. Learning conversation. The learner is in the driver's seat. An example of this is the motivational review dialogue. It demands active listening skill, open questioning and positive body language from learner. Teacher should have empathy and objectivity and a non-judgmental attitude if this activity is to be successful. Relating theory to practical and vice versa. This will mostly be for subjects which involve conducting experiments in a laboratory or workshop. Modeling. The learner is exposed to the subject content and the underpinning thinking working under an expert's guidance. Activities outside the classroom. Learning activities conducted outside the classroom includes day and overnight visits to specific location related to the topic being taught, field trips and surveys, investigations conducted in the local area, sports events, music and drama production, and so on. When planned and implemented well, learning outside the classroom contributes significantly to raising standard and improving children's personal and social emotional development. Learning outside the classroom is very successful when it is an integral part of long-term curriculum planning and closely linked to classroom activities. The school can make better and more consistent use of them on buildings and grounds and the neighboring area to support learning. Learning objectives for the visits should be precisely defined and integrated sufficiently with activities in the classroom. It is important to evaluate the impact of learning outside the classroom on improving achievement and also monitor the participation in these activities by the students. Discourse as a method of teaching. Discourse approach is interpretation of text is normally used for teaching languages such as English and Hindi. The text can be all kinds, including spoken data from conversation to institutionalized forms of talking. Discourse can be defined as a pattern of verbal behavior and the process of unfolding an idea into a text. The difference between a discourse and a text is that discourse is a live language and a text is a mo- while text is a monument to life. Discourse processes can certainly be reconstructed from text, but one needs insight and intuition in order to interpret movement that once existed but is now cast is in stone. Discourse approach to text interpretation covers three aspects: semantic, relating to its meaning in language or logic; syntactic, according to the syntax; pragmatic, dealing sensibly and realistically based on particular rather than theoretical consideration.